let's start there. Let's start with the NBA. So obviously the Denver Nuggets win in 5. They win at home, which is cool, right? I feel like every time I watch, like teams like never win. They never close it out at home, right? I think the Pens, when they won the Stanley Cup, did they ever
Both
close
on
it
the
out?
road.
Both on the road,
yeah.
Even going back to the one against the Red Wings on the road,
Yep.
right? Yeah. So and obviously NFL is a neutral site, so it's cool to see teams close it out on home ice, home turf, home court, whatever the case may be, right? So they close it out in 5. I had the Nuggets in 6. I think they're a much better team. They're more well-rounded. They have more size, more length, more versatile defenders, more better wing players. We know this league is primarily wing-driven, and obviously they had the best player in basketball right now, Nikola Jokic. And the Heat, there's something to be said for culture and hard work and toughness, being able to lead you in the playoffs, right? And they're led by, of course, Jimmy Butler, who is a player unlike we've ever seen before. And not stylistically, in terms of name me another player that has been a B to B, we'll go B plus player in the regular season, right? Jimmy Butler's career averages are like 23, 8 and 6 or something like that, right? In the regular season, very, very average. I mean, above average, but a very B plus type player, more like a number 2 role. Still has the alpha mentality, more like a number 2 production wise. To see his game elevated as much as it is in the playoffs, right? He averages almost 30 a game in the playoffs. That's great. But then you notice in the finals, he's averaging 21, 4, and 6, right? You see the erosion. There's something to be said that the culture can get you there. Can it get you over the top? And that's where Denver separates. They have the stars to get you over the top. I mean, you just look, and this is their top 3 right here. Jokic, 30, 14, and 7. Jamal Murray, 21, 6, and 10 assists. He had 10-plus assists in every game in the finals. Wildly impressive for somebody who was viewed as mostly a scorer. How about Aaron Gordon? Lockdown defender, 14, 7, and 3. The Heat's top 2 scorers were both 21. Bam had 12 and 3. Butler added 4 and 6. Gabe Vincent was their number 3 scorer at just 11 points a game. Didn't even average a full rebound a game. There's your difference right there. It's about the star. And you're going to hear a lot of talk, is this the next NBA dynasty? And I think we get a little bit ahead of ourselves in terms of dynasties, and we do this in every sport. Right? Russ and the Seahawks get to a Super Bowl, and they win, right? They beat the Broncos. Handily, right? I think it was like 43-8. And we're like, wow, really good defense. Quarterback that's not making a ton yet. Good running back. Good culture. Pete Carroll's, at that point, a superstar coach, right? Was great in college, comes over to the pros, in the first couple years, wins a title, right? You're like, wow, that could be a dynasty right there. Next thing you know, Tom Brady says, relax, guys, relax. All right, Malcolm Butler, goal line interception. Next thing you know, they don't get back. Seattle doesn't get back. Right, in basketball, we've been kind of spoiled, right? We had, obviously, basketball in and of itself has been a dynasty league, right? You get Jordan and the Bulls, and you get the Kobe Shaq Lakers. You get the Heatles with LeBron and D Wade and Bosh, and then you get the Spurs dynasty there for a little bit before the Heatles, and then you move into the Warriors dynasty. But pump the brakes a little bit. Not everything has to be a dynasty. I think that's going to be a lot of the discussion today, and maybe that's something we discuss down the road depending on how do they do next year, how do they do the year after, right? The definition of great. And I was listening to, so I'm doing this exercise challenge called the Murph. You can look it up if you want. By the way, it's brutal. I'm not trying to sit here and toot my own horn, but I was listening to it, right? There's a certain point where you start running the second mile, and you're like, I think I might die right now. Like, this is like as close to death as I might get. So I'm listening to some motivational stuff, right? Stephen A. Smith comes in my ear, right? And he goes, the definition of great is sustained excellence. I would say a dynasty is great. You have to be great to be a dynasty. What does great mean? Sustained excellence. It's only been 1 year. It's been 1 year. The conversation really should be, wait a minute. We thought this was like a guard league, and then you go in with like small ball. The Warriors had a bunch of shooters, and Draymond's undersized, but he's playing the 5, but he can guard up to the 3. He can even switch on a pick and roll with a maybe a point guard that's a little bit bigger. Maybe not the dynamic ones, but can switch onto a point guard. Can guard all 5, play small ball, shoot the lights out. That's what we thought the NBA was. But in reality, you go back 10 years, right? So that's when the game started changing to much more of a 3-point shooting league. So that's 10 years. Let's go back to 2013 with the Heat. LeBron's a wing player. That's not a guard. LeBron is a wing player. dominated by size, physicality, aggressiveness going at the rim. How about the Spurs? Now, Duncan is now out of his prime at this point, and Kawhi Leonard is particularly the main scorer. But you still have great size down low. You got a great wing player, again, dominated by size, physicality. Then, of course, you get the Warriors run. That's fine. But then you get to the Raptors in 2019. Again, Kawhi Leonard, wing player. How about the Lakers in 2020? I would argue their best player that year was Anthony Davis, who's a center. Yes, LeBron was still great. At that point, it was like year 18, I think. 17, something like that. He was good in spurts, for halves, for games at a time. AD was the real key to that team. LeBron was on that team the year before with a bunch of young guys. They didn't even make the playoffs. You get AD, they win a title. Right now, it was weird circumstances in the bubble, but still. And then you go to the Milwaukee Bucks. Oh, wait, that's a center/power forward in Giannis. Again, Warriors, an anomaly. And now you get the Nuggets with a dominant center. Right, so the conversation really should be, is the league pivoting back to a size, center, power forward, big physical wing-dominated league? I would argue yes. I mean, there's nothing that you could throw at Nikola Jokic that would slow him down enough to where you could sit there and go into a game and be like, hey, we're good, Jokic, we got him covered. We got him covered today. No, instead of, hey, he's going to get 37, we found a strategy to get him down to 31 points today. That's your strategy? Okay. All right. Good luck. You're not going to win a lot of games. And the Miami Heat found that out the hard way. I mean, and you can't say enough. Again, I'm not trying to diminish what they did by saying that it's not a dynasty yet. I'm not saying it can't be a dynasty. But you're going to hear a ton of discussion this week, next week, the week after about, is this a dynasty? Well, not yet. Could it be? Maybe. And we'll get there. We'll get to that bridge when we cross it. But right now, the discussion should be, wow, what a historical season with a historical center, a great coaching job, a very good number 2 in Jamal Murray, and a team that is going to be a force to be reckoned with, and we'll see how they progress. That's what the conversation should be. That's what the conversation is here, and that's what you should be looking for in sports media, right? It's not, if you're clicking on a video and it's, are the Nuggets a dynasty? Well, then you're clicking on clickbait. If you want to buy into that, go for it. Right now, the conversation should be, what a historic season. Nikola Jokic is great. Mike Malone did a great job as the head coach. And they beat a very well-coached, well-rounded, good, hardworking, tough defensive roster in Miami. That's the story of the finals. That's how it went. Good for Denver. Good for Nikola Jokic. Good for Michael Malone. Good for everybody in that organization. The Heat will be back. Maybe not to this level. Maybe not with the same guys. But they'll be back. They'll be a good, viable team for years to come. Good for them on the run. Good for Denver. Congratulations all around.
Yeah, to me, this says more about the style regressing to the mean, as you kind of talked about, right? The size, the physicality in the NBA kind of starting to take back over. That's kind of always been the recipe.
Yeah.
And I think that's very evident throughout almost every league, right? You look at baseball. Can you have a team here and there for a season or two that pops off and wins with the power game, like the Yankees always try to play, with big home runs? We're going to strike out a ton, but we're going to hit a lot of home runs.
I'll give you an example. How about the Nationals? They're 19-31 going to the break. They win the title. Soto's gone. They're not the same now.
Exactly.
One year they pop.
Exactly. And then it's going to regress back to the mean where you actually have to play small ball. You have to play strategic baseball. You have to get runners on base, and you have to hit them in. You can look at the same thing in the NFL with mobile quarterbacks and this whole new era and style of quarterbacks that we're seeing now. Will that win you a couple seasons? Will that win you a Super Bowl here and there? For sure. And we're going to see a lot of that. But I think at the end of the day, it's going to regress back to the mean, which is great pocket passer, a great offensive line, solid defense to keep points off the board, and you're going to see everything kind of always come back to the mean. It's always going to come back down to, I think, what the game is at its core.
I would argue it already has, and people say, well, Mahomes is mobile. Yes, Mahomes is mobile, but he's great because he's great from the pocket.
Yeah.
He's great because he had one incompletion in the second half, and it was a throwaway.
Yeah.
Right, that's why he's great. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he had that one run because he can do special, but it's the mundane pocket presence that wins them games.
Right, and I think this series here with the Nuggets and the Heat, I think it just speaks to that point very, very clearly, and I think it's something that we're always going to see echoed throughout pretty much every league all of the time.
That's a great segue into hits and misses. Let's go.